As the channel has increased in viewership and popularity, so do have the inquiries from companies who would like to have their products covered in cheese. There are a lot of things, objects, I would love to have a look at, but due to limited resources, and by resources I mean time, I try to pick the ones that I think stand out from the crowd. Don't get me wrong, I very much appreciate the opportunity to get hands-on time with all these products, which is entirely thanks to all of you who are watching this. And personally, I would love to play around with as many keyboards or accessories that I can, but for the channel I'm trying to avoid having the videos turn into basic spec sheet rundowns. If there aren't enough differentiating factors or unique thoughts that I can muster up, I don't feel like it's the right thing to do. The Frankenstein from EZYKeys almost fell into that category, but somehow I felt compelled to have a closer look, even though my first impression urged me to reach for a pitchfork.
Burn him!
The Frankenstein is a modular DIY macro pad kit from EZYKeys, a Chinese company with a devilishly handsome looking staff.
Hello there.
Like a lot of things I cover on this channel, this here too is the first time for me to play around with something like a macro pad. I always wanted to have one, despite having absolutely no idea what I would use it for, because I don't even need a full-sized keyboard. But like so many things, they just look neat and interesting. You want one, even if it makes no sense. The story of Frankenstein is a tragic tale of obsession and loss. The story of Frankenstein the macro pad is much more quirky and fun. At the core you have this tiny looking keyboard with 5 keys, amongst which is an almost 3 unit wide spacebar, an ISO enter key and 3 1-unit keys. The otherwise unassuming hardware contains a left facing USB-C port, clean sides all around, and nothing on the bottom. But to the top you'll find what is probably the most interesting aspect of this contraption, which is the connection to the optional modular accessories. You can attach one out of these 3 extensions to the base unit, all of which can be purchased separately or as a big bundle containing everything. There is what I presume to be an Apple Watch charger, resembling an old Macintosh, a display unit that can showcase custom values, and what I got, which is the number 0002. This one is equipped with 2 rotary encoders that can be configured using the supplied software, which unfortunately is not VIA but a fork of VIA called Vile. Never heard about this one before, but now I somehow see it popping up every now and then. The available functions inside Vile are at first glance practically identical to VIA, with a slightly less appealing interface if you ask me. You can configure it to do anything from adjusting the volume to scrubbing through a timeline in your chosen editing suite. You'll find the same issues here that I mentioned in my Work Louder video. You are limited by it just as much as VIA. However, unlike with Work Louder, I don't think this is meant to become your creative unlock. Think of it more as a flashy desk accessory to spice up your day. But you don't have to use the extension if you don't want to. By unlocking the self-tapping screws at the bottom, it is easily and swiftly disconnected. You can choose to cover up the end with the included piece and seal off the opening. The extension itself unfortunately cannot be used on its own as it does not have a USB connection and requires the host device. The spaces, stabilizers and switches are all standard and can be replaced with whatever else you want, including the keycaps, which have as mentioned an ISO enter key amongst them, which might be the only thing that could make the hunt for a different set slightly more difficult. The board has hot swappable switch sockets, and I received 3 TTC Gold Pink and 2 Kale Box Reds for the larger keys. Now, I find this to be a weirdly unexpected level of detail. What I mean is, on normal keyboards I have used different switches or tampered with the springs to create an equal typing experience for the heavier spacebar, but I've never seen this on a pre-built or a DIY kit. To have this is a bit of an overkill considering the size of the caps, but something that tells me that whoever came up with this didn't just duct tape leftover pieces from the parts bin, even if it sometimes feels a little bit like that. Quality-wise, this won't win any awards. The housing is entirely 3D printed and you'll find clear evidence of this all around. Sometimes more apparent, sometimes not so much. The material used is PLA or polylactic acid and comes from sugars in cornstarch, cassava or sugarcane. It's biodegradable, carbon neutral and apparently edible? Please don't eat this. It's actually quite common in the world of 3D printing, which I didn't know at the time, but it's neat nonetheless. But I would take the eco-friendliness of this product with a big grain of salt. Putting it together was actually a lot of fun, and having no manual, although there exists a video tutorial, I found figuring out how to put this together quite enjoyable, and this could be one of the cases where the building part might be more fun than actually using it. That's not to say that it's bad per se, but you won't find thocky sounds here or premium construction. There's no brass weight, powder coating, or CNC machine perfection. This is, for better or worse, kinda stitched together, you know, like Frankenstein. But there are ways to make it a little bit more classy. After playing around with it for a while, I quickly decided that this might be a great opportunity to try out some cosmetic DIY attempts. I abandoned the rotary knobs as I have no use for them and settled on the keyboard part, which I do think has a very neat form factor. Regarding the encoders or the number 0002 unit, they might have been more useful to me if the arrangement was slightly different. What I mean is, I would have much preferred it to be the other way around. I know I can just turn it by 180 degrees, but that would have caused the enter key to be upside down, which made me foam up. The additional clutter caused by the USB coming out from the right didn't help either, although this is an issue you might not face depending on your desk setup. So after deciding to leave the encoder unit behind, I went ahead and looped the stabs, sanded off the sides and top, and also treated the plate before adding a few layers of primer. I left the end piece in place, hoping to get an even, smooth surface after sanding it, but unfortunately the primer highlighted that I was a bit premature. Since this is my first time coloring something, I went ahead as I was very eager to see how it would turn out. It might not be as quirky as the red and gold combination before, but a much more befitting one to my setup. I finished it off with a few spare keycaps I had lying around, and I still don't think it's a necessary acquisition, but I do like the changed look. With an angled USB-C cable on the side, it's also a bit more manageable to use. The included white one is nice, especially considering its ridiculous length, but it makes the tiny board a bit more difficult to keep in place. I don't know if this will remain permanently on my desk, even after the changed look. For the usage, I ended up configuring it as a dedicated mute-unmute switch during video calls, a switcher between work and leisure desktops, and a button that directly launches Spotify for some reason. If you look past the quality constraints that come from the chosen construction, which you might not care about at a $30 price point, it's not so bad. The Frankenstein is up for pre-order right now on EZYKeys website. You can pick up just the base unit or get the one with the optional extensions, or even opt for the entire series at a combined price of $120. I think the base unit is at least a fun distraction to play around with, or a neat gift for that keyboard tinker in your life. But keep in mind that this is very much a 3D printed DIY kit. It won't turn heads. But then again, at $30, it's not asking to, at least not in its default configuration. So don't grab your pitchforks just yet. If you're interested, give it a chance. There might be some good in this one after all, even if the first impression may have startled you. Hey, thanks so much for watching this shorter excursion for a change. I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. If you do have a MacroPad too, I'd be curious to know what you use it for. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, have a great day and see you in the next one. Bye!